On the air, Carrol Gibbons.
Carroll, I think, is one of the nicest people I've ever known in my life.
Jimmy Dyrenforth, writer, actor, and lifelong friend of Carrol Gibbons.
I learned a great deal from him. He was so easy to work with. All the boys liked him and loved working with him. His piano playing was so individual. He only had to sit at the piano and everybody would gather around.
Could become synonymous with such a British institution as the Savoy Hotel was a question that I asked Ethel Levy, the present Director of Entertainments for the Savoy, but for a great number of years, Carrol Gibbons' friend and right hand.
He came over in 1924, and I believe was brought over by Joe Branley. Do you know Joe Branley?
Guitar player, well, banjo player, yes.
And with Ambrose for so long.
Right.
And it's a story, really, because Joe more or less told him he had a job, and he didn't tell him until they came into Southampton Water that he hadn't. So he said, well, I tell you what, Gibby, I'll pay your passage back to America if you don't get one in 3 months. He brought him in and introduced him then to the man in charge, Mr. De Mornez of the band, and he liked him. And then the relief pianist was needed at the Berkeley, and then he went in with Howard Jacobs with the Boston Orchestra into the Berkeley.
Right.
1926, he came here.
To the Savoy, yeah.
He had a break when he went to EMI
as musical director, yes.
Yes, and then he went to America to write for MGM. He and Jimmy went.
Jimmy Dyrenforth.
Yes. And they asked him to come back and restart the Savoy Hotel Orpheans with Howard Jacobs, dual leadership. And he did. After a couple of months, Howard didn't want to stay any longer, so he left. And Carroll continued, and that was it. He just stayed. And he never wanted to go anywhere else, ever.
Ethel Levy was recalling Carrol Gibbons' early days at the Savoy, into the office came George Smith, now the manager of the Savoy Theatre, but in the early 30s, tenor saxophonist in the Orpheans. He reminisced too.
The Savoy Hotel Orpheans was started as opposed to the Savoy Orpheans, which was under Du Bois Summers, and that was in 19 31. All I can say is that the years I had with Carroll Gibbons here, and I had from 19, when it started, 1931, were the happiest days of my life, right up until I finished here, when I finished with Carroll. He was a great guy. No band leader that I know, never could come up to him, not one. But there again, I knew Carroll also well, didn't I? Because we used to go out night clubbing together. That's how we found Alan Lenner.
He came to a club where I was working, from the Savoy, and asked me over to the table and said if he'd liked my voice and he would like to hear it on, better equipment. Would I go the next morning at 9 o'clock, 9 or 9:30, to where they were recording all their Luxembourg programs? Well, I went on until 5, because we did in those days. In the morning, of course, I wasn't up and didn't go, and I thought, well, that's that. All the boys had said, "You big chance, Carroll Gibbons, Savoy Hotel." And Carroll came in at 10 o'clock the next evening, straight up to me, and, he was so marvellous. "Honey, I'm sorry. Papa forgot you work until 5 in the morning. How about 12 o'clock tomorrow?" At the audition, I was in a terrible state. And again, I thought, well, that's that. And suddenly, the boys all said, "Coffee, let's have a coffee next door at the cafe." And there was a cafe next door to the studios, and I went in with Melachrino, Paul Fennelly, all the boys. See who else? Rachel Leopold, Eric Sidé, Bill Shakespeare. I think Rudy Storito was on drums too. And then they said, "Come on, let's walk back to the studio." And I went to the mic. Carroll said, "Have another try." And of course he'd fix them, take her outside, get her loosened up and that. He was such a marvellous man, so thoughtful. I think I'm right in saying that I was the first girl to sing on the stand at the Savoy. I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think there'd been a girl singer at the Savoy before. Hey, what about that? First girl singer? A foggy day in London town had me low, had me down. I viewed the morning with alarm. The British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wondered, could this thing last? The age of miracles hadn't passed. I saw thee, I saw you there, and through foggy London town, the sun was shining everywhere.
Foggy day in London town, which prompted Jimmy Dyrenforth to remember when both he and Carroll first arrived in London from America.
I arrived in April 24, and Carroll came in September. And I met him soon after that. We became friends at once, and 25, we started writing songs together, and finally managed to land one in 27. After that, it never stopped. But the one I remember most vividly is the one that has lived on through the years. That happened in the summer of 28. Carroll and I were asked to write a little floor show of songs for a very smart nightclub. And we met the producer and finally got to a piano. Carroll said, "Well, I thought this would be a good one to start." And then he played a perfectly charming tune, which I had never heard before. He'd never played it for me. I was perfectly certain he'd made it up on the spot, but he'd never say yes or no to that. Well, I had no time to think. The producer turned to me and said, "Oh, that's a lovely song. What's it called?" I heard myself say airily, oh, it's called a garden in the rain. We used to say that's a lovely idea, we'll dress the girls as flowers, and I knew I was stuck with it. Well, we went through a lot of other songs, but that thing hit me so hard that by the time I got hold of the text, they had written the words.
Was just a garden in the lane, close to the little leafy lane, a touch of colony skies of grey. The rain drops kiss the flower beds, the blossoms raise the thirsty head, a perfumed thank you they seem to say. Surely there was charm beyond compare to you. Maybe it was just that I was there with you. 'Twas just a garden in the rain, but then the sun came out again and sent us happily on our
A Garden in the Rain, Carroll Gibbons' most successful composition. And it's strange that that record is the only one on which he appears, and only as an accompanist. The singer was George Metaxa, who was the son of the Romanian Minister of Agriculture, and who later was the original star of Bittersweet. Not so strange is the fact that for something like a decade, the musicians in the Savoy Hotel Orpheans remained almost unchanged. A few went their separate ways, others came in, but the nucleus was constant. And it was all due to Carroll's personality.
Well, of course, he was the perfect gent. What else can one say? He was marvellous, marvellous chap to work with.
Paul Feneley.
The atmosphere, the whole thing, the hotel life and everything about it, wonderful. After having been in the band, well, I was with him for 12 years, and after the first year, one knew his modulations backwards, and there was no need to open the book. You knew which the next number was going to be, and that was it. It was a joy working. It was all fun, you know, although we played very well, I think, if I remember rightly. It was fun. We enjoyed working. I couldn't wait to get there, start at 9:30, because it was a real night's enjoyment, apart from a good night's work. I was one of those peculiar people, there are quite a few of them now, who could play trumpet and trombone, you see. Turn 3 trumpets into 4, or 3 trombones into 4, and whichever way you sat in the middle.
Paul Feneley, who was not only a fine trumpeter-trombonist, but was responsible for many of the arrangements for the Orpheans, and the band within a band, the Boyfriends. One of his scores for them was this arrangement of The Birth of the Blues. of the blues. The Boy Friends, in some ways, became more famous than the Orpheans. With just one trumpet, a trombone, a clarinet, strings, and Carroll's piano with the rhythm, it was a very flexible unit. There was such rapport between the players that quite often the arrangements were improvised on the spot. It also provided much more of a showcase than the full orchestra for Carroll's sophisticated, stylish piano, and on occasions, two pianos. The other one played by the famous American composer of evergreens like Body and Soul and I Cover the Waterfront, Johnny Green.
Oh, Carroll, that's a lovely tune they're playing.
I'm awfully glad you like it, Johnny.
What's its name, Carroll?
Oh, it's called On the Air.
Whose tune is it?
I'm afraid it's mine.
Well, I shouldn't be afraid if I were you, Carroll. It's lovely. It's thrilling. But you know, now that I hear the orchestra playing it, there are just one or two little details that I think might have been done differently. I mean, we're such terribly good friends, Carroll. You won't mind or think me presumptuous, will you, if I show you on the piano what I mean?
Certainly not, Johnny. Go right ahead.
Oh, thanks awfully, Carroll. Now, you see, this first strain, Carroll, might have been handled like this. You see what I mean, Carroll?
Yeah, I see what you mean, Johnny. But don't you like my middle strain?
Oh, love it. Simply love it, Carroll. Although, I don't know. Now that I start to think of it, there might be a couple of items there that would have been done differently. Now, here's what I mean. Look. See what I mean, Carroll?
Yeah, Johnny, I see what you mean. It means you don't like the first strain, you don't like the middle strain. In other words, you must think that tune is terrible.
Well, that's more or less, Carroll, what I've been trying to tell you for the last few minutes.
Well, Johnny, as long as we're being frank, I might as well tell you that I don't think an awful lot of what you've done.
Oh, really?
No, but as long as they're both minus, I mean, let's put them together and we might get a plus.
Well, let's try.
Johnny.
Yes, Carroll.
I wonder if you'd like to do me a favor.
Like nothing better.
I wonder if you'd play that old tune of yours, The Living in Dreams.
Gladly, Carroll.
Johnny, I think that's one of the nicest tunes you've ever written.
Oh, thank you, Carroll. I'm glad you like it. I hope you like the words, too.
Oh, I do. But what are they?
Do you mean to say you don't know them?
Well, not your version of them. Of course, I've heard them in practically every other popular song.
I know you have. That's where I got them. You see, I wrote them myself.
You did, Johnny? I'd love to hear them. Sometime.
Well, there's no time like the present. I'd like to sing them for you.
All right, Johnny. If you must sing, I suppose you must sing.
Through all these years, I've cried out my heart in tears without measure. But with you to treasure, I'm living in dreams.
Boy, Johnny.
Hey, what's the matter, Carol?
Do you mean to tell me you don't know?
Well, I know I've known Caruso, but then after all...
Johnny, you're great. You're swell. You're terrific. But stick to piano playing, will you? After all, as one composer to another, you must admit that it's the band that puts the tune over every time.
Well, I suppose you're right, Carol, but I would like to sing.
Johnny, the boys will take care of that, I'm afraid. Shall we break his heart, boys?
I'm going to sing anyway. That's what I'm going to do, so there.
Years without measure, but with you to treasure, I'm living in...
Oh. Poor Johnny. He was such a nice fellow.
Poor Johnny.
Poor Johnny Green, who indeed was such a nice fellow, and who happily returned on many other occasions to join Carroll on record and on the bandstand at the Savoy. Not to sing, however. The Orpheans were well provided for in that department. Anne Lenner, of course, and from time to time other singers worked with the orchestra. Brian Lawrence, Jerry Fitzgerald, and Eric Whitley. But the band had another singing star within its own ranks, George Melachrino. Ethel Levy remembers.
George Melachrino, of course, was a complete fool. When he was young, he was an absolute clown, but what a brilliant man he was. Practically genius, wasn't he? Well, there wasn't an instrument he couldn't play. He could write. Carroll made him sing. Carroll paid for his music lesson. He heard him singing in the band room one day. Thought he'd make a vocalist of him. And he did sing with us for a very long time.
A cigarette that bears a lipstick's traces, an airline ticket to romantic places, and still my heart has wings. These foolish things remind me of you. A tinkling piano in the next apartment, those stumbling words that told you what my heart meant. A fairground's painted swings, these foolish things remind me of you. You came, you saw, you conquered me. When you did that to me, I somehow knew that this had to be the winds of March that make my heart a dancer. A telephone that rings, but who's to answer? Oh, how the ghost of you clings. These foolish things remind me of you.
For all his suaveness on that song, George Melachrino was, as Ethel Levy said, a clown. And she and everyone else in the band has one indelible image of Melachrino on stage.
It was the opening night on tour. We were going to do... One of the tunes was South of the Border. I remember that distinctly. And George said to Carol, Pop, can I wear a costume? So Carol said, have you got time? Because you've got an hip-hop to change. So he said, yes, but tell me just a cloak and a hat. So Carol said, right. So neither of us had seen this costume, you see. So anyway, he came the opening night and he slipped off. Because George was a bit of a ham, you know. He loved it. And he came in with this cloak and a hat. And the boys, with one, of course, said, Sandeman's pot. Well, Carol leant against the piano, honestly, and he had to lean across the piano. He was convulsed. And, of course, you couldn't let George know, you know. I mean, you daren't upset him because, you know... So, anyway, this went on. He did the two houses that night, and nobody said it, did he? Expect the boys pulled his leg, but... And then he said, Pop, do you mind if I don't wear the costume? He said, I found a bit of a rush to change. Oh, no, son, that's all right. That's the end of that.
Less dramatically, but more melodiously, George Melachrino is also remembered for his charming duets with Anne Lenner.
I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a feeling you're having fun. I'll get to go by when you are done fooling with me.
I've got a feeling you're fooling. I've got a notion it's make-believe. I think you're laughing right up your sleeve, fooling with me. Life is worth living while you are giving moments of paradise.
You're such a standout, but oh, how you hand out the hocus pocus from your eyes. I got a feeling you're fooling.
And I've got a feeling it's all a frame.
It's just the well-known old army game, fooling with you.
While the smaller unit, the Boyfriends, had Carroll's solo piano as the pivot, the larger orchestra, where there was really less musical space, strangely used two pianos. In the beginning, the second pianist was Harry Jacobson. He was succeeded by Ian Stewart, who recalls,
after many attempts to meet him, because he had been my idol for some time, he phoned me up and asked me if I'd play as accompanist for a girlfriend of his. This I did, and then later on asked me to play for another girlfriend of his who was looking for a pianist with a Carroll Gibbons style. And because I had more or less copied his style for some time, I got the job. She was an American, and we went over to America, and I stayed there for about 13 months. In fact, I overstayed my time because I spent some of my fare home, and when I arrived back, I had about £5 left. Within 2 weeks, by great good fortune, Carroll phoned me up and said, look, would you like to take the second chair in my band? And so, of course, you don't have to wonder what the answer to that was. That was in 1935. I'm afraid the one thing which does stick out of my mind, in which I was petrified, that was for one broadcast, Carroll Gibbons was ill. Now, I was still very green, although I possibly had been with the band then about 2 or 3 years, and I was suddenly called on not only to conduct a band, but also to play the usual solo in place of Carrol Gibbons. I didn't drink whiskey in those days, but I'm not implying I drink a lot now, but believe me, if I wished I had then, because that was a petrifying experience.
The band at the Savoy had more to do than just play in the restaurant in the evening, as Max Abrams, who replaced Rudy Starita as drummer, remembers.
It was very fashionable in those days to have what they called a thé dansant at the top hotels. And this is where the male dancing partners, or gigolos, professional dancing partners, used to have a wonderful time dancing with the cream of society, the ladies of leisure, who would come in for these afternoon tea dances, which took place from 4:15 to 6 p.m. And it was all very nice and very formal. The band had to wear dark lounge suits, and we played nice commercial, sweet society music, while the ladies thoroughly enjoyed their professional partners. We would play numbers for them like Tea for Two and most of the musical comedy numbers of the day, the Cole Porter and Gershwin tunes.
The number one tunes, definitely, were Cole Porters. There was the Cole Porter, the Gershwin, all the Gershwin tunes. Yes. They were all, they were the popular tunes, without a doubt. What I call the evergreens, Rodgers and Hart.
lovely era of wonderful tunes. Auntie adored. I guess I'll have to change my plan.
I guess I'll have to change my plan. I should have realized there'd be another man. I overlooked that point completely until the big affair began. Before I knew where I was at, I found myself upon the shelf, and that was that. I tried to reach the moon, but when I got there, all that I could get was the air. My feet are back upon the ground. I've lost the one girl I found. I'll have to change my plan. I should have realized there'd be another man. Why did I buy those blue pajamas before the big affair began? My boiling point is much too low for me to try to be a fly Lothario. I think I'll crawl right back and into my shell, dwelling in my personal hell. I'll have to change my plan around. I've lost the one girl I found.
I guess I'll have to change my plan. Carroll Gibbons, singer. Apparently, he added this facet to his other talents because of the wartime call-up and the unavailability of the professionals. But like everything else he did, his singing had a charm that won many fans. He sings the next song, too, and Hubert Gregg recalls the meeting that led to it.
I shall never forget my first meeting of it. I'd just written my first song. It was called I'm Going to Get Lit Up When the Lights Go Up in London. And it had just gone, after 3 years of trying, I just got it into a show called Strike a New Note, which brought Sid Field to London. And the show was a big success, and the song happened to be a big success, too. And Jimmy Phillips of Peter Maurice Music decided to publish it. So I went up to Jimmy's office, and there was Carrol Gibbons. And Jimmy said, Carrol Gibbons is going to make the first recording of your song, I'm Going to Get Lit Up. And of course I just went through the floor with excitement, you know. Well, Carrol made this record, and I rushed out and bought it, took it home, and played it all day long, quietly to myself, you know. And I was in the army at the time. Anyway, I went into the Savoy several times on leave, I remember, with a girlfriend, different one each time. And the enormous pride of going in there, and Carrol Gibbons caught my eye and immediately started playing I'm Going to Get Lit Up. And whichever girl I happened to be with always said to me, darling, they're playing your tune. And I sort of purred, rather, not too modestly, you know, and took her onto the floor. And it was the most gorgeous feeling, because the Savoy was wonderful in those days. You went in, and there was this strange smell of pine, palm, ozone. I don't know what it was. It was a very expensive, stylish smell. And it was quite unlike any other smell in London. And it was gorgeous. And Carol was absolutely marvelous.
I'm gonna get lit up when the lights go up in London. I'm gonna get lit up as I've never been before. You will find me on the tiles. You will find me wreathed in smiles. I'm gonna get so lit up I'll be visible for miles. The city will sit up when the lights go up in London. We'll all be lit up as the Strand was, only more, much more. And before the party's played out, They will fetch the fire brigade out to the littest, uppest scene you ever saw.
As I said, Carroll Gibbons and the Savoy Hotel became synonymous. Both, in the years before the war, evoked an atmosphere of sophisticated splendor.
It was a fabulous place. It really was. I hate the word, but that's what it was. It had a tremendous atmosphere, tremendous reputation. And I remember Carroll's personal popularity was so great. There were times when I'd go there to have lunch with him, and it would take 20 minutes for him to get across the lobby because of people stopping and wanting to talk to him. They had other bands there, but Carroll's Orpheans was the big band, and the sparks would begin to fly when they started.
Got to dance,
Got to dance,
got to dance.
got to dance. Broadway rhythm, it's got me. Everybody dance. Broadway rhythm, it's got me. Everybody dance.
Out on the gay white way in each merry cafe, orchestras play, taking your breath away.
With the Broadway rhythm, it's got me. Everybody sing and dance. That Broadway rhythm. That Broadway rhythm.
When I hear that happy beat, feel like dancing down the street too.
That Broadway rhythm.
Driving,
Beating.
rhythm, got to dance,
Got to dance.
got to dance.
Got to dance.
What was it about Gibby, Carroll Gibbons, that inspired such devotion from his friends and fans? Everyone we spoke to said simply, he was a marvelous person. His musicians, as we've heard, adored him. Ethel Levy.
He's a very great humorist. And I used to go for him about scrambling on the stand with the rest of the boys sometimes. I said, Carol, for heaven's sake, let them get settled and you make your, yeah, honey, yeah. And I used to nag him eventually, lots of times. And then one day he said to me, tell you what I'll do for you tomorrow, honey. I'll come on the flying trapeze. He said, that all right? I never mentioned it again. I gave up. He would not. He was one of the boys as far as he was concerned, and he never was any different, ever. And he was really a very charming person. He very rarely lost his temper, about once in 12 months. And then, he had a stammer. It was a hesitancy more than anything, and he couldn't get his W's out sometimes. But if he lost his temper, of course, he didn't repeat himself for 10 minutes. You had to kick him in the teeth about 6 times before, or at least anyone did, before he realized that they didn't like him.
And for her memories of many happy hours at the Savoy with Carroll and the Orpheans and Lenner.
He loved his work. He was a very happy man. He loved playing. He loved the band. He loved the people. He loved the fans. He loved... He was very happy. You know, he didn't go down and sell himself. He walked on and quietly sat at the piano and just leaned on the piano and kind of stammered out his next announcement. And I think he endeared himself to them. I think in the end they just loved the man and his music, the tunes he played and the atmosphere that he took out to them, which he did. He took the Savoy out, you know, he took the atmosphere out. Oh, yes, he was a dream man.
All our friends keep knocking at the door. They've asked me out 100 times or more, but all I say is leave me in the gloom, and here I stay within my lonely room, 'cause I don't want to walk without you, baby. Walk without my arm about you, baby. I thought the day you left me behind, I'd take a stroll and get you right off my mind, but now I find that I don't want to walk without the sunshine. Why'd you have to turn off all that sunshine? Oh, baby, please come back or you'll break my heart for me, 'cause I don't want to walk without you, no sirree.
It's been a pleasure to remember Carroll Gibbons, the man, and his music. And for their recollections, I'm indebted to Ethel Levy, Anne Lenner, Jimmy Dyrenforth, George Smith, Paul Feneley, Ian Stewart, Max Abrams, and Hubert Gregg, as well as all the musicians who were the Savoy Hotel Orpheans.